Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the All We Do Is Talk podcast. We're here with the week. What week are we in, gentlemen? I'm here with Isaiah.
12. 12. We're two-thirds of the way exactly through the regular season. November's gone.
Yeah, and here we are. So, how were your Thanksgivings?
Good,
The
good.
food was good. I just enjoyed the nice 5 consecutive days off from work. Hope everybody else enjoyed whatever days they got to chill with their families and stuff.
All right, so let's start with those games, and we'll go to Detroit to start, where the Bears got out of there with a 16-14 win over the Lions.
This game went the only way you could have expected to. Lions to cover and lose. It's just the way that they do it. Even on a 3-point line, even with the lead, even with multiple timeouts and a chance to get the ball back.
Against the backup quarterback.
Against the backup quarterback. It never mattered. The game was always going to be ugly, low scoring, and hard to watch. I hope you had Thanksgiving lunch instead of Thanksgiving dinner because the good game happened later. But this wasn't fantastic to watch. Andy Dalton made a couple of big plays. They did a good job driving down there at the end of the game. Huge gaffe by Dan Campbell to call timeouts that he didn't have. That he weren't allowed to call, and it gave not only the Bears a first down, but the chance to kill the clock and kick the game-winning field goal. That's what happened. No chance for Jared Goff to go answer. Every week we said that was probably the Lions' best shot, but this feels like it was the Lions' best shot.
I could disagree with that. It's probably going to be the Pittsburgh game because that was there for the taking. And
I said every week we say this could have been it.
So they're just going to keep doing it every week. I mean, if they're not going to win this game, I don't know which games they will win. At least they tie, so they won't go 0-17. But Jared Goff versus Andy Dalton was exactly what you expected from Jared Goff versus Andy Dalton on a short week, on the holiday of Thanksgiving. Not good to watch. Luckily, cooking during this, so it's just a good background game. It's a good background noise game.
Good background noise game.
Sucks because Giants have Chicago's pick, so I was disappointed.
Good with Chicago.
I was disappointed.
Yeah, one of my fantasy teams was in misery for the DeAndre Swift injury as well early in that game, so that also lost the explosiveness in any Lions offense that there is. So, at least they covered, so that was huge for the pick. But let's move on to Moody's Pain, where the Raiders came into town and beat the Cowboys 36-33.
This is exactly what the NFL wanted. An exciting, high-scoring, up-tempo NFL football game with Dak Prescott and Derek Carr.
4 hours?
Scoring. You want me to just get right into it? All right, we can get right into it. The referees need to stay out of the damn NFL football games. 28 penalties for over 250 yards is uncalled for. No one wants to see it. No one needs to see it. A 4-3 game ended when the Bills Saints game kicked off on the late night game. It's just unacceptable. No one wants to watch that. And then to single out Anthony Brown for 4 separate defensive pass interference and penalties, as I watched DBs cover receivers all weekend.
They got the message that no one wanted to say that.
It was clearly frustrating to see that there was a message sent to back off on the calls after they spent the whole game robbing 2 of their most hated franchises with a bunch of calls. Great win for the Raiders. They showed a lot of resilience, obviously. Derek Carr was fantastic. Getting Hunter Renfrow, Brad Edwards involved, even without Darren Waller. He made Zay Jones into a weapon. They ran the ball really well. And whenever they needed to play, the referee stole them flag. On the other end, for the Cowboys, their defense finally bottomed out. They had been playing above their head despite the injuries that they were dealing with. But today, on Thursday, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis didn't play good football after they had been playing good football for a while. They struggled to rush the passer outside of Michael Parsons. Leighton and Keanu Neal were not good in the linebacker position in the middle of the field, and they just couldn't get any stops. When they made good defensive plays, they were called for flags, whether they were right or wrong. They couldn't clean them up, and it cost them the game at the end in overtime. The Cowboys offense was fantastic, scored 33 points despite all the penalties they had to overcome. But when you have a game which teams don't win games when you have 166 yards on penalties, it just doesn't happen. You can't overcome it.
I enjoyed the game. Raiders were explosive with Hunter Renfrow. Surprisingly, he's not an explosive guy, but he was making couple explosive plays in that game. Penalties were bad all around. I mean, bad holding calls on the Raiders, tacky PI calls on the Cowboys. Anthony Brown just wasn't playing good in general, which makes for an eyesore of a game when a cornerback's just out there just shitting on himself for about 4 hours.
Oh, and Greg Zuerlein.
Yeah, Greg Zuerlein missed the kick. He's missed some bad kicks this year. Derek Carr played a good game. Not a great game, just a good game. I think lots of help because of PI calls. I mean, he was throwing for the PI as we saw with Carson Wentz a couple weeks back against the 49ers. There's an example of a game where there were lots of multiple PIs called.
There are games where you're just out here getting rewarded every time. And then as you saw with Wentz on Sunday against the Bucs, when you don't get rewarded, it just turns into turnovers.
But, I mean, we all would hope the referees would be more consistent, but they're bad. So, and they're in part of the system.
But they were excessively.
Getting things to where they need to get.
28 penalties for 270 plus yards.
I will say the big X factor of this game is that Desean Jackson, who did not start his season on the Raiders, was making a lot of big plays on the Raiders this year. So good for them for finding Desean Jackson, and he can still run. Surprisingly, to this point, he's been in the league for a long, long time, and he can still run. So he's still getting it done. But it's pretty. Don't confuse. We're not going to confuse competitive for good here. This was a sloppy game, but it was explosive, lots of scoring. Dak and the Cowboys fought back in the second half. A couple big catches from Michael Gallup. But in the end, the Raiders made us all have a happy Thanksgiving by putting the Cowboys away right at the time for you to get into your dinner.
Yeah, I mean, I think those penalties were brutal for Dallas. But yeah, sloppy overall. I agree. Hunter Renfrow, I told you about him. Well, you knew about him, but I told you, highlighted him in our preview. But yeah, Desean Jackson just baffles me on how he can still take the top off of defense. It's unreal.
At least he didn't throw the ball away before crossing the goal line this time. He's got a history of doing that
against the Cowboys.
All right, so let's move on to the New Orleans game, the nightcap of Thanksgiving, where the Bills came to town and dominated 31-6.
There's a reason Taysom Hill's taking the first team reps of quarterback this week, because that describes how this game went for the New Orleans Saints and their offense. Obviously, missing Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas, and both for their tackles. It's really hard to watch that. It's really hard for them to move the ball already. Then they're playing one of the, if not the best defense in the league, and they just had a really hard time. Trevor Siemian, he's just your run-of-the-mill dreaming quarterback. He'll make an impressive throw every now and again, but overall he's going to be running for his life and trying to make plays that he's incapable of making. For the Bills, Josh Allen seemed to bounce back and look really good against a generally stout Saints defense at home. I think the fact that the Saints offense just was incapable of doing anything makes things a lot easier. Stephon Diggs had a big game, and the Bills just went on the road and handled a good football team on a short week.
Simple as that. No contest all the way through. The Bills were healthy, relatively healthy. Unfortunately, they did lose Trey White, which sucks because injuries are now going to start playing a part. We're down the final stretch here, so these last bit of injuries are going to really determine who gets up out of here in the end for the Super Bowl. But other than that, really, what would you expect? Like, we all expected the Bills to cover easily. Yep. I thought Sean Payton could probably get some garbage time or draw up a couple of shock plays here.
That's what they got for their 6 points.
But yeah, no, just no. With all those injuries for the Saints to tackles, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs, no contest for a Bills defense that was pissed off coming off a loss and happy to not see Jonathan Taylor on the field. And the Bills offense had another one of their better games of the season this year. Some bad interception for Josh Allen. Teams are still playing that heavy cover 2 shell against them because they're one of those teams that are going to be playing that against often. Stephon Diggs got open, won his matchup relatively well against Marshawn Lattimore, which that was an interesting matchup to see. But no contest for the Bills from the start.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a big get-on-track game for Buffalo since they have a huge matchup this coming up weekend against New England. So this was a big get-right game for Buffalo. Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen did well spreading the ball. I mean, Knox getting 2 touchdowns on 3 targets. I mean, they did what they had to do in order to get ready. So let's move to Sunday, the 1 o'clock slate. Let's start in Jacksonville, where Atlanta won 21-14.
Atlanta almost Atlanted it up again. Atlanta once, as they do every week, get up 7 to 10 points, coast that way for a while. In the fourth quarter, it gets dicey. But luckily this week they're playing a team that they're actually better than.
So they're getting out of there a lot this year.
When against the teams that are better than, they get out of there. Against the teams that are not better than, they lose. They're an average to below average football team. That's basically what this was here. Getting Cordell Patterson back was obviously gigantic. He's the engine of their offense right now without Calvin Ridley. He takes some pressure off of Kyle Pitts to make all the plays in the receiving game as well. And that allowed Atlanta to score just enough points to get the W over getting a worse and worse Trevor Lawrence offense. It's not good. They can't. They were running the ball well. That's pretty much gone away at this point. The receiving weapons are still left a lot to be desired. There's really nothing out there outside of Marvin Jones Jr. and that's only good for 5 catches for 50 yards. So once you get that, you're not really getting a whole lot else. Just good win for Atlanta. I don't know how many of these wins they need, but they keep racking them up. And Jacksonville continues to hope they can be picking a tackle in the draft in the top 3.
I mean, yeah, Atlanta, this was a meaningless game between two teams that
ain't going nowhere.
They got their draft boards out probably. Atlanta's got Matt Ryan, so he's going to be fighting for respect because these are wins on his career record, unfortunately. Yeah. Cordell Patterson, what a great year. Fantasy pickup for everybody who knows of the year.
He's being unbelievable.
Who would have saw this? No one predicted that Cordell Patterson would be scoring. He's on pace to probably score like 15 rushing touchdowns this year. He might score 20 touchdowns. Like he's having that type of season. No one saw that.
He's missed some games, so we'll see if he can keep that pace.
But that's crazy to see for Cordell Patterson, especially since everybody was hyping Mike Davis to come into the season. And as for Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson and Justin Fields, they'll just continue to be the 3 worst quarterbacks in the league because they're rookies and in a bad situation.
They're in the worst offices with the worst coaching. So it's going to be bad.
It's pretty bad. It looks pretty bad out there.
Yeah, just a snooze fest. I honestly didn't watch this game, so
nothing wrong with honesty.
Yeah,
I have Cordell Patterson in fantasy, so I got to tune in. Unfortunately,
But let's go to New England, where the Titans came to town, but the Patriots stopped them 36-13.
New England just keeps it rolling. Bill Belichick starts to cement his status. He looks like he's finally going to get a Coach of the Year award because he's been outstanding with this team. Their defense is in their full peak right now. You can't really throw in that secondary. Run defense was a little leaky in this one, especially late in the first half. Gave up the 60-yard touchdown run to Dante Hilliard. Gave another explosive run to Dante Foreman, but they forced a fumble on that play. Forced a fumble on the Hilliard too. New England's defense is just rolling right now. It's fantastic. They're getting pressure. They're confusing quarterbacks, and the DBs are making plays. Offensively, Mac Jones continues to be efficient. Gets the ball to the receivers, and they're making plays. Kendrick Bourne made a few spectacular plays in this one. They're running the football well with a solid offensive line, and they're the hottest team in the league right now. In New England, and they're going into Sunday against Josh Allen, the Bills. Monday night. Yeah, it's Monday night. Monday night against the Bills. That game's matter. So it's gonna matter. It's mattering a lot more than we thought it would in the preseason.
I mean, I just feel sorry for Tennessee.
That's why I didn't even mention that. It's nothing to say with Tennessee, man.
Julio Jones is out. AJ Brown is out. Derrick Henry is out. Taylor Lewan is out. Bud Dupree is out. That's like 5 top 7 paid players.
That you're supposed to do.
Yes, they got a good team. They got good coaching, but
the good players not playing.
They're gonna throw this season away in the end. Tough for them. As for New England, I expected New England to handle Tennessee because Tennessee's missing all the good players that they have, and New England is pretty healthy.
Yeah,
I think their offensive line's gotten even more healthy because I think Trent Brown is coming back.
I think the offensive line is 100%.
And now he's starting to hit his stride. And Mac Jones is impressive. I don't know how good Mac Jones is, but he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. It doesn't matter. He's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year because he's a quarterback, and he's probably going to win the playoffs. So good. I mean, it's the Patriots. Y'all know what the Patriots do. Yeah, that's what the Patriots do.
Yeah, Mac Jones was great. I loved this game. I wish Hunter Henry got a touchdown for one of my fantasy leagues, but whatever. But yeah, I just think the Patriots are a dangerous team right now, and again, the big test against Buffalo for the division is going to be a big matchup this coming up week. So we'll see if they're for real this coming up week.
Man, that's a good one in New England. We needed that.
All right, so let's go to the Toilet Bowl. where the Jets pulled it out against Houston 21-14.
It's a shame when you said toilet bowl. I didn't know which one you were talking about. But
Hey, the NFC East game was
these
teams picking above both of these teams, no matter both of those.
They're all picking in the top 10.
We'll see.
Multiple times. But as for this one, a surprise win. I think we would all agree for the Jets.
When the Jets win, it's surprising.
But it ain't the only time they won all year. Like, they got some wins. They got a few wins.
These two teams beat Tennessee.
This wasn't good football. It was two bad football teams going at it to see who's worse. And Houston won today by losing the football game. That's the real truth here. Zach Wilson coming back off injury couldn't have had a more cushiony matchup. He played okay. Despite missing Corey Davis out there, he made a good athletic play in the red zone to give him the go-ahead touchdown, and their defense played well enough to hang on to get the win. Tyrod Taylor, who had been playing well, did not play good in this football game here. They have no run game in Houston to supplement it anyway, so it's two bad football teams going at it in a bad game. Good job, Houston, for knowing that they needed to take the L.
I mean, unfortunately, the Jets scored the defensive touchdown. So
yeah,
that's the way this game went. Whoever scored the defense
game.
Whoever scored defense with the defense was going to help their bad offense win the game, and that's what happened in the end. Tyrod Taylor was bad, but who cares about Tyrod Taylor? He'll be in the league kicking around as a backup quarterback until the end of time, probably. Zach Wilson gets the award this week for worst interception of the week. And there's not much more to say other than, damn, it sucks that this draft looks. People are suspect about how this draft coming up is going to be. Like, it's got good depth, but the top players the players at the top aren't really going to be transcendent probably as years prior. So
and we talk about how teams having multiple top 10 picks in the draft. We know Houston's probably a trade away from getting involved in that top 10 a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, this just proves that's where you go in this and matters in the draft. I mean, the only 100%. Real successful person in this draft class, quarterback-wise, has been the guy with the best coach. So
he also with the latest in the draft, because the later you go, the better team you're going to play on.
He went to the Super Bowl winning coach.
They were 7-9 last year. Like, people act like the Patriots were ass. They weren't. And then they spent $160 million in free agency. Like, it was too easy.
So let's go to Isaiah's game where the Giants edged out the Eagles. And my only thought was Jalen Reagor is who they took instead of Justin Jefferson.
Over Justin Jefferson, yes.
Yes.
Isn't it amazing?
Yes, Eric.
Isn't it amazing?
Say it again. Say it one more time, Eric. They took Jalen Reagor over who?
Justin Jefferson. Unbelievable.
They took my 10th receiver from that draft over my second receiver from that draft. So it's amazing. Thank you, Philly, because you could have DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson. Instead, you have Jalen Reagor and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. As for this game, this was by far the worst game of the whole
of Thursday, Sunday, Monday.
I don't know. That Sunday night game was pretty bad. Yeah, this was this was a contender though. This was a contender, and Jalen Hurts has, like I've always said, I don't believe he's an NFL quarterback, and this game just showed. Yeah, I don't. I think the Giants have a good defense, but he was making that good defense look like the '85 Bears, the 2015 Broncos, 2014 Seahawks. He was throwing the DBs all day. Terrible. The game really flipped at the end of the half. The Eagles are driving, and Jalen Hurts throws a terrible interception. But the problem is he ran the clock out because there's only a few seconds left, so they weren't even getting a field goal. So they get shut out at half. Giants offense did absolutely nothing except barely catch a touchdown pass on the goal line and kick 2 field goals. Graham would know he's my fantasy kicker, so I'm going to be mad at him for missing a field goal to make us have to sweat this out. But nothing to say about it other than offensively. I always believe the Giants have lots of weapons. John Ross, Kenny Galladay, even with Kadarius Toney and Sterling Shepard missing, like the Giants still have weapons, and Kyle Rudolph, so Evan Ingram supplementing him. So they have weapons. So hopefully Freddie Kitchens gets to work that out as they play more. I'd also be playing Matt Pert over Nate Solder more because Nate Solder looks pretty bad. Just let it go. Let go of all of that ever becoming a thing. And as for the Eagles, both of these teams are picking twice in the top 15
for a reason,
no matter what.
Yeah.
And the Giants win. That's all that matters.
Yeah, this is just a typical ugly. I hope you took the under NFC East football here. If Jalen Hurts anything good with his arm in this game, the Eagles win by.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. The Giants
win by 7, 14, 21.
They ran the ball dominantly.
The Eagles ran the ball fantastic. Jalen Hurts ran the ball well with his legs. Boston Scott continued to be a giant killer. Everybody who ran the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles. Till he fumbled. Average over 5 yards a carry. It makes no sense that the Eagles ran the ball so well, but only scored 7 points until you look at the Jalen Hurts stat line. No touchdown, 3 picks, 4 yards in attempt. He took a bunch of bad sacks. The percentage is terrible. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything good as a passer in this game. And who can blame him? The Giants are sitting there playing 7, 8 DBs in coverage, and they don't have any receivers that can go make plays against that.
I will second that. Devonte Smith was eliminated from the team.
Devonte Smith had a hard time. He's going against good corners who have safeties over the top because they have no fear of them, no worry about the run game because Jalen Hurts isn't beating them over the top to complete passes. So they got to just sit back in that zone, hold up in the red zone, and they were good to go. When Daniel Jones plays a clean game, the Giants can have a good chance of winning the football game. He didn't turn the ball over here. Didn't give Philly any easy possessions to go get points for themselves, and that's how they just barely got out of here in a 13-7 ugly game.
Hard to watch. Can't stress that enough.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts still put his team in a chance to where they could have won that game, but
he put him in the hole.
But the Jalen Reagor drops.
That's different.
It was bad. It was bad. Can't deny that.
He put him in the hole.
Right. Yeah, but a snooze fest the whole time. But yeah, it's incredible to see how the top 10 draft picks align right now. So many teams have multiple picks in the top 10. Yeah, so let's move on to not the shock of the day, but Cincinnati taking care of business against Pittsburgh 41-10.
I think Cincinnati's still dancing in the end zone.
You got to watch every minute of it. If you were in the DMV area on CBS, as Isaiah complained on the podcast account.
I forgot that Cincinnati had – so for the last 5 consecutive weeks before this week, a team had been taken off the TV in our area every week because of blowouts. I forgot that it started when Cincinnati blew out Baltimore. So I guess you can't take a team off the TV early twice. So Cincinnati stopped blowing people out like this.
And they just manhandled Pittsburgh in every phase. We'll start with the offense. They ran it down their throat. Joe Mixon had 20 attempts by halftime. He was unbelievable. He ran through the Pittsburgh defense like Swiss cheese. They just looked like they wanted nothing to do with tackling Joe Mixon. And when they weren't hitting with Joe Mixon, then he was getting the ball to the playmakers at receiver. T. Higgins had his biggest game of the year. Lost somebody for a touchdown, and they just ran it up on them on the offensive end. They did whatever. It was like 10 yards a pop, whatever they called worked, and Pittsburgh couldn't do anything with it. Obviously, on the other side of the ball, if Pittsburgh's defense is giving up 41 points, this offense has no shot of keeping up with that. In a nice air-controlled LAC area
with fans,
with home game fans, Ben can pick it up a little bit for you. Some other guys can make some plays. They can keep themselves in it. On a cold game at Cincinnati, Ben's arms look like shit. Like whether it was the quick dump offs behind the line of scrimmage, the screen game, short slants, balls, it didn't matter. Most of those were not close. Receivers were diving on the ground all day trying to get to a Ben Roethlisberger football. You can't do anything with a quarterback who's holding your offensive back like that. They can't run the ball because there's no threat of a passing game whatsoever. And they went up against a team that seems to be serious about blowing them out every opportunity they get. So they got massacred here.
Mm-hmm. Tough. I mean, Cincinnati, they're a good team. I'm just going to point out that the drafting Cincinnati's done, everything they have is like luck. They went the way I would have gone. They drafted offense, which is what the Giants have been doing, and they signed defense. That's how I agree that it's easier to sign defensive players because they're harder to develop for the NFL. So it's easier to sign them in free agency. And then the draft, they've drafted their quarterback, their left tackle, their running back, 3 receivers. They have holes, but they're not because they're not done. They're not perfect. Their coach is young and the team is young, but they're good. They're going in there. 2 teams going in opposite directions. Pittsburgh's going the other way. Yeah. They have talent on offense. I think their defense is overrated. I think they have Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's a playmaker, and I think they have T.J. Watt, who's a playmaker. But after the Devin Bush injury, that took away their second level great player. I don't really know how good their corners aren't good. Mike Hilton, the corner that left them, had a pick 6, so he was happy. They were happy to rub that in. And my only thing is I don't know where Pittsburgh goes for it because as it gets colder in that NFC North division, it gets Baltimore, Cleveland. Ben's only going to get worse. We see that with all the old quarterbacks the last few years, including Tom Brady. That's why he plays in Florida now. When it gets colder, that arm's going to get worse. So,
yeah,
I'm sure we'll be seeing a platoon of him and Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph to make this get even more interesting.
Ben Roethlisberger's not coming off the field unless there's an injury. I don't believe they'll take him off.
Okay, he'll get injured because Cincinnati was trying to do that too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the Bengals defense can play the way they played and hold teams to lower points, this offense can win football games for you. I didn't even know Eli Apple was on the Bengals, to be honest.
Really? He's had a few interceptions this year. He's not playing amazingly. He's like their fourth corner and has only played because of injuries, but he's made a few plays, more plays than he made on the Giants for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, with this explosive offense, Joe Mixon's had an incredible season, definitely one of the more underrated seasons for a running back this year.
He's staying healthy, which is just the first chore for this year.
Yeah. So let's move on to my pain and misery, where the Dolphins handled the Carolina Panthers 33-10.
The game turned on the block punt return for a touchdown for the Miami Dolphins. That was
the first score of the game.
In the first and that was the end of the game.
And I looked at Moody. I said, "Damn, Miami winning now."
Hey, you weren't wrong. Because after that, it was just an ass kicking from that point forward. Cam Newton is just
in a league with Justin Herbert, Zach Wilson, and Trevor Lawrence. I almost forgot about him. How forgettable Trevor Lawrence has become. Cam Newton had a worse game than all of them.
Well, the problem is the one thing we know. The Dolphins have an elite secondary. Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, and they made Cam Newton's life a living hell all day long. Strapped up those receivers, and we're taking plays back to the house when they were presented to them. As we know, we'll say a prayer for Mr. Christian McCaffrey, who is out for the season once again with the nagging injuries. When they lose Christian McCaffrey, that's not a good football team. As you can see there, that he is the sun that revolves around the galaxy that is the Carolina Panthers. And when he is not available, they can't play. And that's what you saw here. The Dolphins are now streaking. They really, really need this. It doesn't matter how good their offense is because their defense is going to do most of the heavy lifting.
This is probably their best offensive game of the year.
If Tua can just be healthy, he's got good rapport with Jalen Waddle. Maybe they can finally get Parker and Will Fuller back in the future and show you
what happened to Will Fuller.
Show you maybe at some point they can show you a presentable offense, but until then, their defense has been doing a good job. They're trying. The AFC East is getting tighter and tighter. They're trying to make a streak towards the playoffs as well for the Panthers. The Cam Newton story was a nice story. They both raced Colt McCoy in Arizona, but this is a week-to-week league, and they kind of
couple weeks haven't been good.
They kind of came back to earth.
Yeah, I mean, it was
ready for you, Eric.
I'm starting to get my big board ready. Losing to Miami, I mean, that definitely caps off with the injuries. Desean Jackson is also done for the year in the secondary. Christian McCaffrey, as soon as he got paid, not the durable guy he was during his rookie.
Exactly like I told you. Everybody's durable until they're not.
It happens every time. Don't pay your running backs. Don't do it.
And lastly, Miami.
So right now we're number 10 in the draft order. So, I mean, this isn't a great quarterback class, so I don't know how many people are going to be jumping up for one. But I don't know, top ones like Matt Corral. If there's an offensive lineman there like Tyler Lindenbaum, if he's still there, he's projected like 6, like edge of top 5 if he somehow falls. I mean, there's multiple ways you could go with that, but wow, that game was hard to watch. Cam Newton.
Y'all sat there in the top 10 last year with multiple quarterbacks available and said, "Nah, we good." And now y'all gonna be picking right back in the same spot next year, looking for a quarterback. That's what y'all get. Yeah. That's what y'all deserve.
It doesn't help that JC Horn didn't play at all this year.
He played 3 games.
He's been playing a while,
a long while.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Good win for the Dolphins. Their season's probably over, but
hey, they're 5-7. They're back in it. They're in
the NFC.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to a great game that happened in the game of the 1:00, Tampa Bay visiting Indianapolis. Tampa Bay comes out 38-31.
There's nothing else to be said. This was a choke job by Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts. They were in complete control of the football game. They had the correct game plan of not trying to slam Jonathan Taylor up into a brick wall, but instead of trying to attack the weak secondary of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got some explosive plays out of it. Their offense looked good. And then the bottom just fell out from underneath it. Carson Wentz holds the ball too long. Tampa Bay recovers a fumble while they're down 10 to get them back in the game. 2 interceptions along with the special teams turnover, and a game that the Colts were in complete control of completely flipped on its head. Tom Brady didn't have to do a whole lot in this game because the story of the night, the star of the game, the better running back on the field was Leonard Fournette. Over 100 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was they didn't do a good job tackling him. They were clearly worried about Mike Evans and those guys in the secondary and those receivers. Tight ends, Gronk had a big day sitting in that cover 2, just making the plays underneath, and Leonard Fournette finished him. Overall, this is Tampa Bay. This is a really good road win for them. They had been struggling recently, but a win over the Giants, good win over the Colts. The Tom Brady and the Bucs seem to be picking their games back up, and now they're getting healthy too.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for the Colts to lose the Baltimore game the way they did, then lose the Tennessee game the way they did, then lose this game the way they did.
And there's a recurring theme in all of those. Carson Wentz turnovers. He's got to stop with them. It's been at least 2 turnovers in the fourth quarters of all those games. He's got to be better.
Okay.
He's got to be better.
I mean, I think their coaching I thought they coached the game pretty well. I mean, they were really aggressive coming out of the half. Like me and Moody both looked and agreed with each other that they should go for the put away. I mean, they try to get a put away and they get a strip sack. I mean, Shaq Barrett's a playmaker, like Moody likes to say. The defenders get paid too. We won't let him off the hook for the bad Tennessee interception. I'll say he blew that one, and the kicker blew the Colts game. I mean, the Baltimore game. So just too many different ways. They've done it different ways, and I mean, that's people have said that a lot of criticized Frank Reich even before Wentz about that, and people have criticized Wentz about that. So they both got to figure that out and stop blowing these games because they're in the AFC, so you can't give up these games in the AFC. And I'm really mad because they didn't even cover. They didn't even cover. The Tampa Bay's going down, running the ball to go kick a field goal, so they would cover. And they let Leonard Fournette run all over them. So I mean, I don't know what else they could have really done to win this game except not let Leonard Fournette go off on them and not turn the ball over at the fumble. After that fumble, they let the door open up to get Tampa Bay back in this game. Good game by Tampa's defense. And this game flipped. In the first half, Carson was protected and Tom Brady was getting pressured heavily, and the Colts were up. And then in the second half, Carson Wentz was under pressure a lot, and Tom Brady was getting protected, and they were opening up holes in the run game. I thought they could have ran Jonathan Taylor more because he did have a big game in the fourth quarter. So that's the real question, but we agreed with the passing, so you can't second guess it. But now that I look back, maybe they could have ran the ball more because maybe Jonathan Taylor is that good. But another choke job for the Colts. They do this. They've been doing this a lot. They've choked a lot of games to Tom Brady in my lifetime. So I'm not surprised to see Tom Brady get a Colts win handed to him. It's happened a lot. And Tampa Bay, good for them. Tom Brady didn't help them win this game, but I guess he gets the credit, and he'll get the credit anyway.
Yeah, QB wins. Y'all love him.
Yeah, I mean, if you give Tom Brady a running game, he's going to be I feel like he's almost undefeated with that. Yeah, he was efficient. He wasn't the greatest MVP type, but when you have Leonard Fournette going 100 yards for 17, you're going to give him the rock more. Yeah,
you're just going to win the game no matter what, because every team that's had running backs do that the last 5 weeks, they've won the game no matter what, no matter who their quarterback was.
How can you not?
So, I mean, Jonathan Taylor had a good game. I mean, he did what he had to do. Just Carson Wentz turnovers are costly. And, yeah. So
now, I will say I thought that Antoine Winfield PI'd on his interception. Good play by him. I thought he used Michael Pittman as a little ladder, booster, trampoline to help him get to where he needed to be. But, yeah, tough. That's a good play still. Ooh, that's tough.
All right, so let's keep it moving. Let's go to the 4:00 slate where Denver had the upset over the Chargers 28-13.
Denver has Justin Herbert's number. That's really what it's looking like at this point. They play that too high look. The master mastered the student in this one. Vic Fangio took Brandon Staley to school. Justin Herbert had a hard time finding open receivers down the field. The coverage was confusing. Bradley Chubb was back. They were getting after him in the pass rush game a little bit too. Couldn't really get Austin Eckler going in the run game. And they just got physically handled on the road. Tough environment for the Denver Broncos are a good team, and their house is a hard place to play, and that's what it looked like for the LA Chargers, who are still trying to find that consistency. For the Broncos, they continue to fight. Their inconsistency jumps up and down week to week, but they handled a good division opponent at home, and they're continuing to fight for a playoff spot. Teddy Bridgewater continues to not look great. But they run the ball really, really well. Their offensive line's been good in the run game, and they're just going to try to do it with run game and defense.
The two most inconsistent teams in the NFL, probably. every other week they either look like world beaters or they look like what's going on here. I think the coaching is good for both teams. I just think it's mediocre coaching both ways. Clearly, from what we've seen, Staley's young, so he can improve. Vic Fangio's defense have been good, but his offense the offense decision making has been questionable. They got Pat Shermer too, who's another inconsistent play caller. We saw some Drew Lock for a little here. Derwin James went ahead and got a pick off of him to make the painful matters even worse. Teddy Bridgewater's hurt, so now they'll be doing this platooning act to make them even more inconsistent. And as for the Chargers, I just hope they find some consistency because one of these teams is clearly going to make the playoffs, in my opinion, and I'd prefer to be watching the Chargers in the playoffs because I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. Also, I'd prefer to watch the Chargers in the playoffs than watch the Broncos in the playoffs.
Yeah,
but Kansas City's the biggest winner.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Kansas City is a big winner with this because I think if they just keep beating themselves in the division, that helps him even more. So, yeah, I mean, Justin Herbert didn't look terrible in this game, but those turnovers are what got him, I think. Austin Eckler was also shut down in the run game, which also helps Justin Herbert a lot. Yeah, saw Drew Lock in this game also, which is a sight to see always.
Teddy's been playing beat up for a few weeks now. He just keeps dragging himself off the ground because every snap could be your last.
So yeah, I mean, good win for Denver. I mean, that keeps them in the hunt, I guess, for them. But
they've beaten a lot of good teams.
And it's like them and LAC have the same record, and they got to have the head. Like it's a bloodbath.
It's crazy to believe, but they're in the hunt, I guess.
All right, let's talk about another team that's crawling back into the hunt. The 49ers beating the Vikings 34-26.
This is the formula for the 49ers. When the offensive line's healthy, when Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, when Kittle and Deebo Samuel are healthy, they're going to win football games. That's just what it is. Their offense is really good when Kyle Shanahan has his pieces and they can scheme it up. Jimmy Garoppolo is playing the best football of the season so far for him. Even though George Kittle didn't really get involved, they were able to get everybody else involved. Deebo Samuel running the ball was dominant in this one. They probably overran him because he has a groin injury now. He's going to miss a couple of games. But their offense is dynamic. Brandon Ayuk made explosive plays in this game as well. The San Francisco 49ers have a dynamic, explosive offense when all the players are healthy and it's clicking. Defensively, their ceiling is limited by how bad their secondary is, but Nick Bosa and that front seven can make it, and Fred Warner, those guys can make enough plays for them to get out ahead on you. For the Minnesota Vikings, this is just another close game that they lost. They were a little sloppy with their penalties today, which is unlike them. But overall, in this, Dalvin Cook being hurt is a big problem. Is a problem now too. He's like their explosive playmaker in the run game, and now it puts more pressure on their receivers to make more plays. But they've been up to the challenge. Justin Jefferson's back over 1,000 yards again. Adam Thielen scores 2 touchdowns a week. Kirk Cousins is playing good.
Madison's good.
Madison's a good filling back. I don't think he gives you what Dalvin Cook gives you, but he is like quality. He's one of the better RB2s in the league. Just another close loss for Minnesota that they're running out of opportunities to start winning these games, especially against NFC opponents. But San Fran is making their late push into the playoffs, and maybe they can get in there.
I mean, let's just reiterate that Minnesota is the only team to have led every game they played in this year.
By at least 7.
They also got a kick return in this game and still lost.
Yeah.
Mike Zimmer is going to do enough to keep his job because That's what they do. They have enough talent to be. They're one of the like the Chargers, like the Broncos. They're consistently inconsistent.
Yep.
Wow.
There you go.
And it just shows. Kirk Cousins is lining up over the guard in the fourth down play for the game. They get after the kick return touchdowns, 49ers tackling a field goal to make it an 8-point game because they missed the 2-point conversion.
Mm-hmm.
They come down, they don't get anything. And then they get another chance with under 2 minutes, and then Kirk Cousins gaff, and then another bad drive. I mean, Minnesota's got talent. I don't know how good Kirk Cousins is because either he's playing like a Hall of Famer or he's playing like a bum. And it's Jekyll and Hyde every other week. The coaching is conservative as it comes. Is it the most conservative coaching in the league?
They're in the top 5 of conservative coaches for sure.
And the defense is bad. So like, why is the defensive coach and has had a bad defense for the last few years? So why is he even there?
There's some issues with that. They can't get Danielle Hunter to play more than a couple games at a time. Xavier Rhodes just fell off the map from all-pro corner to can't play at all. Patrick Peterson's on IR. Harris Smith's old now. It's tough.
Play in this game.
It's tough. It's hard to keep a defense built over a long period of time, which is why you should put your value in offense because it's more sustainable.
And that's for the 49ers. Deebo Samuels was great. Brandon Ayuk is good. George Kittle is good. And all those pieces are interchangeable. All those guys can run with the ball and can catch the ball. They got back their running back at Elijah Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what Trey Sermon did to never been able to get used.
He's been moved on from, honestly.
I mean, they just got there.
Yeah.
And we all believe that the 49ers can make the playoffs. Actually,
I picked them to be the 2 seed. Yeah. So I thought they'd be better. The injuries came for them early, but now as they've gotten healthier, they picked it up.
I did pick the NFC East, the second NFC East team that I boldly predicted over them, but I believe in this 49ers team. It's healthy now, and I just think they're gonna. I know that they took Seattle's spot. I had Seattle. The injuries hit Seattle worse because they lost their best player on the team. So San Francisco gets to have that third NFC West spot. But we expected 2 teams from the NFC West to get in after the division winner.
Yeah, I mean, right now the 49ers are the 6th seed in the NFC. So, I mean, yeah, just dominant running game, Kyle Shanahan style. Brandon Ayuk with some explosive plays as well. Glad to see him helping me a little bit with that breakout, but he's doing well. And Kittle, I think Kittle is the energy of this offense. Even when he doesn't have an explosive, a good day, he's still productive on that offense. So, yeah, good for Jimmy G to keep a win total just for the 49ers to get more when they trade him. So let's move on to the best game of the weekend, I think. The Packers beating the Rams 36-28.
This is the best game of the weekend?
I mean, it's scoring happened. I don't know. This is the best game.
Green Bay was handling these guys.
But was there a better game?
Tampa Bay, Indianapolis. I think
clearly
better.
Okay, yeah. So,
but overall, just more Matthew Stafford horror at Lambeau Field. That's just how it is for him over there.
Sean McVay's never won there either.
It's a hard place to win.
Matthew Stafford, not the Rams.
But
there's been other. Sean McVay's played in Green Bay multiple times.
Yeah, fair.
Including in the playoffs. It's
been a horror show for the Rams. Stafford, I'm saying Stafford's been there for playing there 13 years and has 1 win there over Deshaun Kaiser. Overall for the Rams, they've hit their midseason swoon. The Robert Woods injury has clearly become a focus of their offense because it's just not the same. It's not as explosive. Cooper Kupp has become easier to cover. Odell Beckham Jr. got involved in this game, made an explosive day down the field, had a good game overall. The biggest issue with the Rams right now is that they can't run the football. That's what made Sean McVay so great, his scheme so great. Their 2018 team was so great was because Todd Gurley
is the real big injury that they lost Cam Akers before the season was even close to starting.
Maybe, although I don't think the gap between him and Darrell Henderson is really that wide. I think their offensive line isn't as good. It continues to age. Whitworth is 40 something now, but in terms of that run game, he can protect, and their high flying pass offense can do all the things. But when you're playing in cold weather at Lambeau Field
without your receiver too,
the pass rushers getting after him a little bit. It's harder to just throw the ball up and down the field all day long. You got to try to get some physicality, gotta get some run game, and they don't have any of that right now. It's all on Matthew Stafford for him to be perfect every time. And if he misses a throw on a third down here, a ball gets tipped to the line of scrimmage there. Suddenly their defense has stopped playing very well. It's giving up a couple of points. couple of points or a couple of drives, and they're down. And that's what's happened these last 3 games. They've gotten blown out, mostly because their offense gets stopped a couple times and the defense just gets ran on. For the Packers, they continue to cement themselves as one of the favorites in the NFC, as was the preseason expectation. They have Aaron Rodgers, and as long as Aaron Rodgers is out there, they're one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the conference, and they have a chance to go to the Super Bowl every single year. That's exactly the position we are in right now. Getting Aaron Jones back was obviously big. Him and AJ Dillon are a good tandem, along with Rodgers to Devonte Adams being the most lethal duo in the league.
I mean, I think that's what I'm going to – we could talk about Sean McVay's offense and Matthew Stafford, but that's the injured unit on their team. So I'll give all of those guys – they need time to figure it out. They're trying to incorporate Odell into the Robert Woods spot. Sucks they lost Robert Woods. I forgot. He's been there in that system as long as anybody else. I think the longest now.
I think he's probably played every year in that system. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's tough for them. But I'm going to look at that defense that has Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and Von Miller, and none of those guys did anything yet. They're the 25th best points per game defense, and that's not good enough. So Moody was right. The defensive regression monster is always hit or miss. You never know. Defense is hit or miss, mostly because turnovers are random.
Defense depends on if you're the quarterback you're playing is any good or not. Most of the time, if you're playing Aaron Rodgers, your defense not going to be good that week. That's just how it goes most of the time.
And I'm not going to let Jalen Ramsey, my DPOY, pick off the hook for letting Aaron Rodgers beat him to the pylon. I just think they need to step it up on that side a little bit. The offense has held the weight for most of the year. Now it's time for the defense to give him some fight. They didn't trade for Von Miller to not get no pass rush on Aaron Rodgers against their best 2 offensive linemen are out. So if they're not going to beat hurt Aaron Rodgers without his best 2 offensive linemen, that's scary for that defense. And offensively, I'll keep believing in Sean McVay will hopefully right the storm. But I could be worried soon. If they lose Jacksonville, I'm going to be worried.
Yeah, I mean, Devonte Adams wanted to come out here and make a statement against the Rams, against OBJ, to show him that he picked the wrong team and he picked the wrong quarterback. I mean, I think this game showed that there's levels to this quarterback position, and Aaron Rodgers is just another level over Matthew Stafford. I saw Matthew Stafford miss several throws that could have definitely been made in this game. But, I mean, they're also trying to get it without Robert Woods, try to integrate OBJ. But, yeah, I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers is now easily the front runner for MVP, second to Tom Brady. But, yeah, I mean, I think a great game for Cleveland and can get them in a good spot for the 1 seed. Let's move into the Sunday Night Football game. Snooze fest, I think. Ravens edge out the Browns 16-10.
If you want to say that this game was worse than the NFC East game,
was the worst game of the week.
That's fine. Nothing good was happening out here.
Lamar made a great throw to Mark Andrews.
Lamar made a YOLO ball, and Mark Andrews made a miracle catch. That's what happened. Overall, this sucked. This game had a lot of hype behind it. 2 good football teams going at it. They had the best game of the season last year, so we expected to see something like that this year. No, we got nothing good came out of this football game at all. All it showed that, 1, the Browns continue offense, because now you could just load up and shut down their run game. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt couldn't do anything all day. Their receiving weapons are not spectacular. So if Baker Mayfield isn't good enough to get those guys.
Had a big game. Jarvis had a big game.
Jarvis did have a big game, but their receiving weapons aren't good enough to
explode, stretch the field.
Yeah, to make plays happen instead of getting the plays that are presented to them. They're not going to be able to do anything on the offensive end. Defensively, they played really well. They did a good job containing Lamar. I thought Lamar threw them 3 balls.
They played really well.
They played
the Robert. Yeah, the Robert was getting Lamar.
I thought the defense played well. They made the play. Lamar just kept throwing them plays, and they kept making the plays. They didn't get abused by the run game. Their defense played well enough to win the game, but just for some reason, somehow Lamar overcame 4 interceptions. It was just one of those type of games where both offenses played bad, and one offense found a way to play worse.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy just how the turnover battle was won by Cleveland, but just nothing happened with it. And
Lamar this was probably the worst passing game we've seen from Lamar. He was on
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts levels. Like, he threw a touchdown.
But he made one play, which is all Jalen Hurts had to do to win on Sunday. Make one decent throw.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
That's the levels right there that Eric was talking about. I mean, Lamar was throwing YOLO balls all day. Shockingly bad interceptions. And then Baker Mayfield is playing with about three bad injuries probably. And I don't know why you pay for a good backup quarterback who's won you a game already this season to not keep using him. But pretty bad game. Defensive slugfest, but really just sloppy offense. And Baltimore's better. Lamar better than Baker Mayfield.
Yes.
Especially if he's banged up.
Yeah, and you expect a better run effort out of the first game with Kareem and Nick Chubb. All right, so let's move on to the Monday Night Football game where Washington edges out Seattle 17-15.
This game went about as I expected to. Thought Washington football team would be able to win the game with just run game and defense. And that's exactly how they got the job done here today. Washington has really found a nice rhythm in terms of just playing the ball control, get 3 yards in a cloud of dust every play, but find a way to convert on third down offense. And solid defense. Their defense has really picked it up. For Taylor Heineke and the Washington football team offense, Antonio Gibson looks really good. I think the Washington football team offensive line looks really good. And when you have a playmaker like Terry McLaurin back there, that can create some holes for your run game. And they just smashed it all day long. 3 yards, 4 yards, 7 yards, 5 yards, just over and over and over and over again.
And they had like 12 5-yard runs.
Yeah, like it was fantastic. They were ahead of the chains all night long. They never had a difficult third down conversion, and they were able to make it happen on outside of a few occasions where they had some drops or some pass rush or stuff like that. But their offense is just solid, consistent. It's not explosive. It doesn't have the talent to be explosive. But if they can just continue to hold time possession and not turn the ball over, the offense can be good enough. Defensively, somehow, despite the loss of both of their best edge rushers, the Washington football team pass rush is as good as it's been all season, and it's all thanks to Jonathan Allen in the middle of the defensive line. He has been a huge disruptor for them. He's moving into that Chris Jones type of tier in terms of D tackles because he's just pushing the pocket all day long. He made Russell Wilson's life a living hell. He was the main culprit because it was that middle pressure. He was whooping the interior offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks all night long, and he was in the backfield, and it made life difficult for the Seahawks offense. For Seattle, Pete Carroll can't play the way he wants to play. Their offensive line isn't good. They lost Chris Carson for the season. They don't have any physical run game, no downhill rushing attack like they had with Marshawn Lynch. And so the offense looks bad. Russell Wilson's is still clearly injured, and I may be a little disinterested in the team from the way the season is going. He missed throws that were right there that were just uncharacteristic. He's usually on the money with those. If you leave him those, it's going to be automatic. For whatever reason, his connection with DK Metcalf has been really spotty. He looked good with Lockett, but Metcalf is their bell cow guy, and they couldn't get him the football until the last drive of the game. 5 straight 3-and-outs is just ugly. They couldn't do anything for long periods of the game with Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. It just didn't make any sense. That's what a bad offensive line will do to you. Pete Carroll, just the conservative game plan. They're going to have to get more. They're going to have to get more aggressive in the way they attack games. It's going to have to be more let Russ cook, or they're going to just go. This is just going to bottom out on them.
I'm going to go with that option. This is probably going to bottom out on them. But, yeah, Russell Wilson, I'm going to start with him. He looked hurt / disinterested. He didn't look like he wanted to be there, and he would look like his accuracy is still being affected by that finger injury. Who knows what's the culprit, because DK Metcalf wasn't even getting targets until the third quarter, and then, like you said, the 5 straight 3-and-outs, just bad. But really, Seattle's offense is really – their interior was not playing good at all, like as Moody's noted. Allen was whooping them up, and I saw Payne in there making some plays, maybe. DK Metcalf, gotta get him targets. Gotta target him. Who else are you targeting if you're not targeting Tyler Lockett? If DK Metcalf has 0 targets, that's all I gotta say. And for the Washington football team, Taylor Heineke, I mean, he just played safe game manager type of game. They ran the ball effectively, so no reason to not do anything else other than run it. And then good screen calls in the red zone. J.D. McKissick did some nice little change of pace stuff for them. Terry McLaurin made his plays. And they just manhandled the Seattle Seahawks for 3 hours. Just just boring. It wasn't a good game, really. Just manhandled them with time of possession and good defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that Russell Wilson is not healthy at all. But yeah, I mean, the Washington football team's getting hot, getting ready. I mean, they have three good wins in a row. And in the NFC East, that gets you back in it, at least a little closer. I think
Not like
once
the AFC East or the AFC West, where teams also went on their top teams went swooning and other teams went surging, and they actually got close.
So I think also getting Curtis Samuel. I think he hasn't been back for too long. That's another weapon that Tyler can use. But yeah, definitely a boring game. Definitely a snooze fest, and I can't wait till December now that they can flex these games and start getting the good games on prime time.
All right. So lastly, we got to get this MVP power rankings on. I'm sure
who's getting doomed this week.
You want to go first, Moody? I'm just gonna debate my last two picks.
It's really hard to make a decision because I think the top two are pretty set at this point. Right now, Aaron Rodgers will be number one. He continues to be outstanding. His team's got the best record in the NFC, second best record behind the Cardinals, but he beat the Cardinals head to head. He's been spectacular all season. He continues to get the top spot. And number two, Tom Brady. He really didn't have to work that hard to be incredible to win this game, but overall for the season, his numbers
up somehow this week.
No, he was two. He was two for me. He was two for me last week too. Somehow for me, he just continues to play. His numbers are going to be good because his weapons are too good for the numbers not to be, and they're going to continue to win football games. They look like they're about to start picking it up this year. It's a shame that in 2021, the only quarterbacks available to win the MVP apparently are going to be 37 and 44 years old. And number three, I really don't know. You could go with a bunch of different names. Kyler Murray's been gone for 3 games, so
he's gone.
So it's kind of hard to put him in there. You could throw Josh Allen in there if you want to. You could throw Dak Prescott in there if you want to. I don't think you could throw Lamar Jackson in there anymore after what he just pulled off in that one. Matthew Stafford, if you want to, at the third spot. With that being said, I guess I'll put Josh Allen in at 3. He had the most recent good game and victory at the same time. And with the 7-4 record, there's a bunch of the next tier of MVP quarterbacks. They all sitting there with 7-4 records. 1 3-game losing streak for me all the way out of it. 1 3-game win streak for being at the top.
I mean, you've got the same 3 that I was debating in my head, so it's going to be the same 3. Different order. I'm going to have Josh Allen as 1. I think he's carrying his team as the primary reason they ever win or do anything on offense. At 2, making his way onto the list for the first time all season long on my list, Aaron Rodgers, Mr. COVID himself. I mean, he had a great game this week. A good game. He had a good game. He missed some throws too, in my opinion, but he made some real impressive throws. He was making very high, difficult throws this week. And at number 3, I have Tom Brady. He really wasn't the reason his team won this week, but he knows how to stay out of the way and collect wins like nobody else has ever known how to do.
Yeah, so I'm going to have honorable mention Dak Prescott. I think he's like 3B on me. I think he had the stats, no turnovers. I think that's good. He's keeping his pace.
I mean, the man was his top 2 receivers. He gave you 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. What more you want him to do? Not get PI on 3rd and 18? You want him to go out there and strap up the receiver on 3rd and 20? That's what you want him to do? That's the only way he could be an MVP for you, I guess, huh? Go ahead, Eric.
But my list is the same as Moody's. I have Josh Allen 3 just because he had the Thanksgiving Day win. And Dak Prescott lost. And then I go my MVP, Tom Brady 2. And I think Aaron Rodgers is in the lead for the MVP right now. He beat the Rams that Tom Brady didn't, but Tom Brady also played a deeper Rams team when they were hot and when they had Robert Woods and didn't have OBJ. So I think Tom Brady faced a better Rams team than what Aaron Rodgers did, but Aaron Rodgers is my number 1.
All right. We'll see y'all back later in the week for week 13.
Yeah, we're getting into it now, man. December football.
All right.
All right, my man.